Welcome to Ag Marketing IQ In Depth. This week we have with us Tyler Shaw, always a valued contributor and good at letting farmers know how they could make money in just about any market. Give us some options for how to work a strategy that could work for you. Welcome, Tyler.
How's it going, Pam?
It's going as good as it can. I like the conversation we've been having. Talk to us about how we need to look at this market, where we were this time last year, and where you think we might go.
Well, there's been a lot of negativity in rural America, really, for the last few months, anyhow. You know, it just seems like it's been an onslaught of lower prices, struggled with some exports, and you know, I'll be right honest, the conversations we have with producers aren't always the funnest. You know, we would rather pick up the phone and talk to people that are flush with cash and see really good markets. That's not necessarily been the case. You know, the conversation we were having ahead of time is, so what does a producer do now? And you know, you're going to run into all kinds of different pockets of what happened on the farm all across the country. This isn't a one size fits all recommendation, but the first thing that I think, now that the equipment's put away and the combines are put in the shop, well, most of the combines, I did talk to a couple of my customers today that are trying to attack some corn still standing in the field, but for most of the producers that have the equipment stored, and maybe they're doing some office work, some tax planning, that type of stuff, now's a good time to sharpen your pencil, dig into where did your cost of production end up at. You know, we work with some producers that ended up producing much higher yields than what they had anticipated. And the result of that is they're even at these lower futures prices with a 440 March handle, and our basis out here in Western North Dakota is not good. We're 65 under. Even at those low cash prices, 385, 375, when we work with some of our producers, go through their break evens, they produced a big enough crop that they're able to sell that crop at a fairly decent profit compared to what we were even anticipating with kind of their normal yields. So that's the first thing I think we need to start with, is what does our updated break evens look like as a result of what production ended up as. And we know there's quite a few producers that really smashed their APHs. We know there's producers that maybe came in under their APH. So again, this is not a one size fits all plan, but I think that's the first step in analyzing these markets. You know, how has that cost of production changed as a result of production? And you know, I don't want to make this a commercial, but we have an app that we use that will do that for you. Put your information in, and it'll spit out what your updated break even is, and we can market against that. The other thing that I was used to teach when I was teaching commodity marketing, we use this at Ag Market, is we call it a dynamic break even. And it's this idea that as you make sales above your initial break even, the grain in the bin now has a lower break even. There was some profit built into that first couple of sales that you made, and that is eaten into the cost of production on the remaining bushels, which now means you can sell at a lower cost, still pay all your bills. And I think that's important, because we had some opportunities in soybeans. It might not have been enough compared to, a lot of the producers I talked to still didn't like the price where we were at just 3 or 4 weeks ago. But if that was above your cost of production, you might be able to make some sales on your last 15-20% that you still got in storage here that will actually help you break even on your total soybean crop. And then you can re-own that futures board with call options, some type of low risk strategy that's a lot easier to manage than grain in the bin.
This idea of dynamic break even is intriguing, and I think it's important. There's that old saying about there's only 2 things in this life that are certain, and I think that's felt even more in agriculture. So if you figured your break even coming into the year when you were figuring out your production costs and what your pricing strategy was going to be, how do you now, and you being an old college professor, I know you know how to tell us, how do you figure out that break even?
Well, I mean, it's figuring out what your total costs are on the whole farm. Most producers we work with now have at least a sophisticated enough software program accounting system they work with. We can pull those numbers in relatively simply. There's all kinds of tools. We have an app. There's several other apps that I could recommend. I still work with some former students of mine that still use the Excel files that we used when I was teaching a decade ago. But the technology's there to pull those costs in, divide it out by the number of acres you grew, divide that by the number of bushels per acre that you produced, and that's going to give you that information. A lot of things changed since the producer initially created those first break evens. Costs have changed. Again, we talked about it. We should now kind of know what our total production or what our yields were. That's going to adjust that number. Could be lower, could be higher, but make those adjustments now. Take a look, and one of the things that you kind of led off with is we're at really a similar price point to where we were the week before Christmas, December 2024. We put in a low the December 19th, I think, at like 435 3/4. Don't quote me on that exact price without me looking, but it was somewhere near kind of where we ended up today, and that was 436.5. And then we went to rally up above $5 by early February. So, and again, we were looking at a lot of the same stuff last year at this time. We were looking at a large South American crop. We were looking at really good yields. The time last year we ended up putting in a record yield on the January report, but the December report was 5 bushels higher than where it ended up being. A very similar situation to exactly the same fundamental news we're looking at this year again. So I'm not clamoring for $5 corn. I'm not out here telling you, oh, we're going back there. I think you've got to, first thing you've got to do is figure out where you're at. Have you made sales? Have you adjusted your cost of production? What's your new break even? Maybe look at the dynamic break even on the remaining bushels, see where we're at. Maybe there's some type of an option play we can put into place where we build a floor on those bushels that guarantees we make some money this year growing corn or soybeans. But then, one of the things we like to say, plan the trade the plan. Once we know all that, have all that information, let's get some price targets working, whether that's with your broker on a futures contract, whether that's to buy options or some type of option spread, or at your local elevator. Have the orders working to stair step that up so you are making sales, so we don't end up in the same boat come this coming May like we were last May, wondering why we didn't do something in January and February when we got that nice rally.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what I'm hearing is we like $5 corn, we like $12 beans, but you might be able to make money off of prices lower than that when you take a look at your break evens if you do a cash flow.
Yeah, and that isn't just a guess. We work with producers that over the last 6 weeks, we had some of those conversations. We did some of that math, and we realized, hey, we outproduced what our expectations were. And we're not looking at a $4 cash break even. We're looking at a 320, 325. And again, it's different for everybody. I never like to paint a wide brush, but you have your numbers. So sit down, take a look at them. Kind of figure out where you need to be, and then let's look and see if anything works, or what can we put in place that sets a floor, protects some equity, and allows us to start looking at marketing at rallies, and then also in those same rallies, maybe we need to be looking at marketing some of next year's crop.
There you go. And so maybe you can hold out a little bit of your crop, looking at maybe getting that higher price. In the meantime, you need the cash flow. You can feel good about it.
Yes.
That sounds good. Well, thank you for your time today, Tyler. You always teach me, and I know you teach our audience. So thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for visiting with me.
Take care.